The
Hey,
smell hit her
what are you
first
doing?
coffee, butter, and
Who are
something
you?
warm in a pan.
Why are you
Not the
cooking eggs in
usual
my
early
kitchen?
morning
I have no
silence of a
idea.
single mother apartment where you wake up already calculating the day, already bracing for the next bill, the next schedule, the next little crisis. This smelled like someone had time. Camila Santos opened her eyes, and for half a second, she thought she was still dreaming, because the sound coming from her kitchen wasn't the normal rattle of her own rushed routine. It was steady, confident, like someone cooking who wasn't worried about being late. She sat up on the couch, robe slipping off one shoulder, and the first thing she saw made her brain stall out like a car trying to start in winter. A man in a crisp shirt, sleeves rolled, standing at her stove with a spatula in his hand, pouring eggs like it was his home. David Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Corp. The man whose name was on the building where she'd been invisible for 3 years. The man who walked past her mop without seeing her face. The man whose decisions shaped thousands of lives with a single email. He turned slightly, holding a mug of coffee like it belonged to him, and the words came out of his mouth before his own mind caught up. "You shouldn't be here." Camila blinked hard once, twice, then pulled her robe tight like that could anchor her back to reality. How did you get in here?" Her voice was a whisper, not because she was weak, but because if she spoke too loud, this moment might shatter and take her sanity with it. David's expensive clothes were wrinkled like he'd slept in them. A small cut marked his forehead. And his eyes, those weren't the eyes of the man she'd seen in polished company photos. Those were the eyes of someone who'd woken up in the wrong life.
Confused.
Disturbed. Almost afraid. "I don't know," he admitted, setting the mug down with hands that trembled just enough to notice. "The last thing I remember is leaving the office after that board meeting. It was tense, then nothing." We were asleep on the couch. Camila's blood ran cold. She slept on the couch only because her 6-year-old daughter Isabella had nightmares and needed her bed. The thought landed heavy. A stranger, CEO or not, had spent the night in her home without her knowledge. Camila shot to her feet and moved toward the bedroom like her body was on autopilot. "My daughter? She's fine," David said quickly, too quickly. "I checked when I woke up. She was sleeping. I didn't disturb her, I swear." Camila froze mid-hallway, heart banging like it wanted out. Something was wrong. Not just weird. Wrong. David Mitchell wasn't some lost tourist. He was known. In the building, in the city, in the industry, arrogant, untouchable. The kind of CEO who spoke about human capital, like people were inventory. Camila had heard him. Because when you clean executive floors at dawn, you hear more than they think. She'd heard him mock employees who missed work for sick kids. Heard him call certain neighborhoods breeding grounds for excuses. Heard him laugh at the idea of compassion as if it were a childish habit. And now this same man was in her kitchen making breakfast, wearing confusion like it was the first honest thing he'd ever put on. David rubbed his face and looked at her like he needed something he couldn't admit. "Listen, I know how this looks, but I need your help. I can't remember how I got here. And there's something about last night, something important I'm missing." Camila studied him, arms crossed, because fear is one thing, but instincts are another, and her instincts were screaming that this wasn't an accident. "Why would I help you?" she said, voice steady. "You don't even know my name, do you? 3 years cleaning your offices, and I bet you never noticed me." David hesitated, a flash of shame crossing his face like a shadow he couldn't control. "I do," he said quietly. "You're early shift cleaning, invisible to people like me." He didn't say it like a defense. He said it like a confession. Los Santos. The voice on the other end was cold and professional, the kind that smiles without warmth. "This is Rebecca Mitchell from Mitchell Corporation. We need to talk about what happened last night." Camila's stomach tightened. Rebecca Mitchell, David's younger sister, company VP, famous for being sharper, harsher, and more ruthless than her brother. David went still as if the name had hit a nerve. Camila kept her voice calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Rebecca's laugh was quiet and dangerous. "My dear, we know exactly where my brother spent the night, and we know how people like you think. An opportunistic cleaning lady sees a golden chance to blackmail our family." The words didn't just insult Camila, they revealed the worldview behind them. Not misunderstanding, not confusion, pure contempt. David reached for the phone, frantic, but Camila stepped away. "Listen carefully, Rebecca," she said, surprising even herself with how steady she sounded. "I don't know how your brother got here, but I am not an opportunist or a blackmailer. Of course not, Rebecca purred. That's why I'm going to make you an offer. $5,000 to forget this ever happened. That's more money than someone like you sees in a year. Someone like you. There it was again. That phrase executives use like a label on a box. Camila felt anger rise, familiar and hot. The kind she'd swallowed her whole life because survival demanded silence. Someone like me, she repeated slowly. You understand perfectly, Rebecca continued. Take the money and sign a confidentiality agreement, or we'll make your life very difficult. In that moment, Camila saw the boardroom logic applied to her living room. Control the narrative by silence, punish resistance, and she realized something that made her spine straighten. Rebecca thought Camila was trapped. Rebecca thought Camila was powerless. Rebecca was wrong. Thank you for the offer, Camila said calmly. Understand the situation as well as you think you do. A pause, then Rebecca's voice sharpened. Kindness has an expiration date. Noted, Camila said, and ended the call. David stared at her like he'd just seen a different person emerge. You don't understand who you're messing with, he muttered, voice half warning, half awe. Rebecca doesn't make empty threats. Camila walked to the window and looked down at the street. A black car sat parked across from her building, engine off, like it had been there too long to be coincidence. How old do you think I am? She asked suddenly. David blinked.
I don't know.
26? 28? Do you know how many of those years I spent being invisible to people like you? Camila turned back, eyes locked. All of them. And before David could respond, her work phone rang. She answered. Camila Santos. A man's voice, nervous and rehearsed. This is Mr. Peterson, night supervisor. I need to inform you your employment has been terminated. Disciplinary issues. Your belongings will be mailed. Camila closed her eyes for one slow second. 3 years, gone with a 30-second script. Disciplinary issues, she repeated. Interesting. What issues?
See, David?
That's confidential. You'll receive documents. Camila's voice remained polite, but it was the kind of politeness that comes right before a storm. Quick question. Who called you to order my termination? Silence. Someone from Mitchell Corp., Camila continued. Rebecca Mitchell. More silence. Thank you, Camila said. That tells me everything. She hung up. David slumped into a chair like the air had been removed from him. She's trying to isolate you, he said quietly. No job, no income. She thinks you'll take the money. Real vulnerability is working 3 jobs while studying at night with a toddler because you can't afford childcare. Real vulnerability is earning a business degree with honors and still being treated like you're only qualified to mop. You're black and you're a single mom. David sat frozen, like her words were breaking through layers he'd spent years building. The phone rang again. Rebecca. Camila answered and put it on speaker. Rebecca Mitchell. How quick you are to cut off my livelihood, Camila said evenly. Impressive. Rebecca's voice was pleased. I see you got the message.
This is just the beginning.
No cleaning company in town will hire you after I'm done. Camila sounded curious, almost amused. What kind of information will you spread? Use your imagination, Rebecca said. A woman who tried to take advantage of a compromising situation? Who do you think they'll believe? E. Mitchell or, well? David waved frantically, begging Camila to stop, but Camila's face didn't change. And you have evidence of these claims? Honey, I don't need proof, Rebecca said. I have reputation. Then Rebecca's voice turned sweeter, crueler. And your daughter, Isabella, right? What a shame she'll grow up watching her mother get humiliated. The kitchen went quiet in a way that felt dangerous. David stood up so fast his chair scraped. Rebecca, stop! Camila lifted a hand without looking at him. Isabella's name changed the equation. It didn't make Camila emotional. It made her precise. You just mentioned my daughter, Camila said, each word clean and sharp. That changes everything. Rebecca laughed. Is that a threat? No, it's not threats that concern me, Camila replied. It's promises. And I promise you'll remember this conversation for the rest of your life. Opened her old laptop, and David saw something that made his face drain. Folders, neatly labeled like a courtroom exhibit, corporate irregularities. Recorded conversations. Questionable correspondence, executive meeting notes. What is this? He whispered. 3 years of cleaning executive floors, Camila said, clicking calmly. You'd be surprised what gets left on printers. On desks. In trash bins, people forget to shred. Conversations people have when they think no one important is listening? David's voice cracked. You've been collecting information. I've been surviving, she corrected, and learning. She opened an audio file. Rebecca's voice filled the room. We cut the fat at the bottom and keep the profits at the top. Media will forget, David went pale. That meeting, the layoffs, the bonuses. I recorded the interesting ones, Camila said, like the one where she suggested creating false disciplinary write-ups to avoid paying benefits. David looked sick. Why didn't you use this before? Camila's eyes held his. Because I don't destroy people for pleasure. But when someone threatens my daughter, I become the kind of person your sister should have feared. Right then, small footsteps padded into the hallway. Isabella, sleepy-eyed, hair wild, rubbing her face. Mommy, why are you talking so loud? Camila snapped the laptop shut and her voice softened instantly. Sorry, baby. Mommy was solving work problems. Isabella looked at David with the blunt honesty children have. Is he still here? For now, Camila said gently. Soon he's going to leave and solve some very serious problems. David understood the message. Whatever was happening, he was no longer in control. He wasn't even sure he wanted to be. Camila picked up her phone and dialed a number. Dr. Hamilton? It's Camila. Yes. The time has come, David frowned. Dr. Hamilton? Sonny, Camila finally looked at him and let the truth land. Marcus Hamilton, civil rights labor attorney. The one who sued Sterling and Associates and won. David recognized the name like a headline. You know him. Shiu? I met him in your cafeteria 3 years ago, Camila said. He told me to document everything. Said companies like yours don't change because someone asked nicely. They change when evidence makes denial impossible. Her phone buzzed with a reply. AG ready when you are. David swallowed hard. Was this your plan from the beginning? Camila shook her head. At first, I just wanted to raise my daughter and keep my head above water. But your sister decided I was disposable. She turned an invisible employee into a very informed enemy. An hour later, Camila sat across from Dr. Marcus Hamilton in a quiet cafe, sliding him her laptop and the leather folder she'd kept hidden behind cleaning rags for years. Hamilton black, mid-50s tailored suit, calm eyes that had seen corporate games before, reviewed files in silence, then exhaled slowly. With this, we can file for an injunction, protect you and your daughter, and bring federal attention down on Mitchell Corp. Camila didn't smile with relief. She smiled with decision. I don't want a settlement, she said. Hamilton lifted an eyebrow. You want war. They made it war when they threatened my child, Camila replied. I want it public. I want every employee they erase to know consequences exist. David sat there shaken, realizing how completely he'd misunderstood the woman who cleaned his floors. On the walk back, he tried one last plea. Camila. She's my sister. Camila stopped and faced him. And Isabella is my daughter. There are no buts after that. That night after Isabella fell asleep, Camila built a timeline, 3 years of decisions, recordings, documents, patterns, not chaos structure. Not revenge accountability. David watched from the couch, finally asking the question he couldn't avoid. Why did you really do this? For 3 years, Camila didn't look up from the screen. She saved the file. Her phone buzzed. Documents ready for filing. Camila's smile this time was quiet and final. The smile of someone who had been underestimated for so long that she learned to turn every insult into proof and every humiliation into leverage. And by the time Rebecca Mitchell realized the cleaning lady wasn't a victim, but a strategist, it wouldn't be a negotiation anymore. It would be consequences.